Welcome to What the World Needs Now with hosts Tom Whisinnand and Josh Monroe. We hope you're able to leave feeling encouraged and ready for another day of changing lives in the field of education as we speak with inspirational teachers from across the nation and world about what keeps their spark lit.
In this episode, we take time to reflect on all the beautiful stories we heard from our guests, the creativity that teachers are bringing to their classrooms, the perceptivity that counselors are approaching each day with, and the flames that each guest brings each day.
Man, it's crazy to think that we are in season 2, our 10th episode. We have had 10 unbelievably inspirational teachers, counselors, film producers, superintendents on to talk and inspire us. We got a lot to dive into tonight.
Man, Josh, we do, and it has been such an incredible journey. I've learned so much as a professional, and I think even more importantly, like as a person. The personal side of teaching is something that you and I know hold really, really close to our hearts. And this has just been an incredible, incredible season, starting with Eric Depew from Miller North Middle School. What an incredible guy. His heart with students is just absolutely in the right place. And that's what really came through during our interview with him.
Yeah, and I've had the privilege to know him for, probably going on 9 years now. And this was the first time that we really sat down and talked about our jobs in depth. Usually it's him swatting me back into the 3rd grade playing basketball, but hearing the different aspects of his job and just how much he loves it was really awesome. I liked how when we asked him, hey, what keeps you inspired? He just went to those moments when he's out helping people. And the changing the lady's tire and getting groceries for a family. I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, his heart is definitely in the right place. And what struck me too is just his mental agility that he has to have in that position. Whether it's working with the administration on one side of things or whether it's working directly with students or with families, his head really has to be on a swivel. And kudos to him for being able to do that. I know there's some educators, probably myself included, that wouldn't be able to pivot as quickly as what he does in his position. But it's needed. Social workers in education are desperately, desperately needed. And he's doing a fantastic job of filling that need in a nothing but a positive way.
Absolutely. Think about how busy too he was during remote teaching. How much he was having to do, behind the scenes for kids. I think that probably had to be a pretty hard time for him to not have those face-to-face interactions like we were able to on Zoom with students. He's still going behind the scenes and being there for students. And I think that's a really admirable part of his job that probably doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. And then after him, we had Jamie Cassup, the former educational evangelist from Google, join us. And it was just incredible, Josh, to have him give us the 20,000 or 30,000 foot view of education in our country and the direction that we need to go and where he hopes we're going. And one of his quotes really, really struck you, and it was an absolutely amazing, amazing quote. But then the learning that I think it brought out from you and from both of us was amazing. Do you remember what that quote was?
Yeah. We're trying to get kids college and career ready, but why is the bar so low? And once he said that, that stuck with me for some reason. And I was sitting there for weeks thinking that's a pretty high bar to get all kids college and career ready. What does he mean by this? What does he mean by this? And then what was it? 6-7 weeks later, we sat down with Leah Jolke and it just came back to me. It was like, oh my goodness, this is what he was talking about. This is how we do more for our students.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Jamie hates the idea of college and career ready and that we are shooting kids so low. He Zoomed with my class one time when we were all in quarantine, and it was just the most amazing thing to have him sit there with 4th graders and ask them, what is the problem that you want to solve in your lifetime? And it's not about tests. It's not about grades. What problem are you going to solve? And I think if we approach education in terms of we're not getting you ready for a job, we're not going to train you to do something. Solve a problem. Go out there and figure it out. Experiment, and learn. Really learn from your experiences. I think that's the best thing you can do as educators.
That's a great question to just ask every class at the beginning of the year. What do you want to do with your life? What problem do you want to solve? What do you bring in to the world? What do you want to accomplish? And then kind of letting the year go from there and helping guide their education through the answer that they give back. I thought sitting down with him was amazing. His knowledge is way up here for me, but listening to him talk was unbelievable. And he pointed out some really big things that I think COVID brings about, the inequalities in education. And, he's got access to literal rocket scientists.
Right.
And we've got, districts across our state that don't even have iPads available for all students. There's some big inequalities that he pointed out.
Yeah. And I think we'll have to keep looking at those as a country, and really grappling with where we want our education system to go. But I think with people like Jamie Cassup asking those questions, how are we going to do it, and what problems are we going to solve as a society? I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, and then we got to sit down with Claudine James, that English teacher on TikTok. She's blown up since we sat down with her. I think she was sitting at, was it around 90,000 when we sat with her?
I think so. I think right about 90,000.
Now she's shooting right around 250,000 followers over on TikTok. So she's doing some great things over there. And the talk with us was awesome.
It was absolutely incredible. And she is a lady that is just so passionate about English, grammar. I am that English teacher on TikTok. But she really is reaching people all around the world with her TikTok videos on grammar. And she just does a fantastic job of inspiring people who maybe have English as a second or third or fourth language, or even a first language, to really understand grammar. So kudos to her for that. One of the stories that I really remember is that she used to sell Avon. Josh, do you remember this story?
Yeah.
And
now I do, yeah.
And she started telling us about how she sold Avon. And I thought, what is Claudine telling us? But she did a fantastic job hooking it into, you better use the product. She'd go and sell Avon, and she'd had her brothers use it, and her sisters use it, and her aunts use this Avon. And it sold itself because she would have other people, word of mouth, tell people how great it was. And then she brought that back into literature. And as a reading teacher, I teach fourth grade, right? And it's hard sometimes to sit down and really read every single book that I ask my students to read. But she did a fantastic job of saying, you better know what you're selling. You better understand the intricacies of the novel or story that you're selling, because kids are smart, Josh, and they pick up on whether you're selling something that you believe in or not.
Yeah. And it was a great reminder. We shouldn't ever ask kids to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves. That's what I took away from that story. It was an awesome story. She started going live too on TikTok. And one thing that I remembered from what she was saying is that she likes to cultivate this family. That those are her kids, and she's there for them. It's like she's adopted them for the year. But I was sitting on her live one night listening to her. She was talking to her students. They were just telling stories about their day at school. So she's really doing that. She has cultivated a family in her class where they leave school, they hop on to hang out with her even more.
That's awesome. What a way to bring about that change that you want to see, that engagement that excellent, amazing teachers get. They get kids engaged on more than a curricular level. So kudos to her for that, man. That is incredible, the engagement that she brings about.
Yeah, and then we got to sit down with our superintendent, Dr. Sutphin, and pick his brain a little bit, open the curtain back on some of the decisions that he's made this year and how tough they've been.
Yeah, he as an educational leader, Josh, I think both of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're both really blessed to be in a place that values quality education, whose superintendent supports amazing teachers, and then goes to bat for them. We just got vaccinated this last weekend, and it'll be maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and all of Millard's, I don't know how many thousands teachers will be vaccinated from COVID. What a game changer that is.
Yeah, I think that's what I appreciate the most from Dr. Sutphin is how much he does value students and teachers, and how he does battle for us, and he cares for us through his actions. He's always in classrooms. This year's an exception, but he's always been in classrooms so that you can put a face with the name. Students understand who he is because he's there with them. I remember one time we were doing an egg drop project for engineering, and I just tweeted out randomly the same day we were doing the project, "Hey, Dr. Sudfin, it'd be awesome if you came by Bryan Elementary at 3 o'clock." He showed up. I mean, he was there and he was asking kids, and they were super pumped. I love that about him. I love how much he loves his job because it makes me love mine 100% more.
Yeah, that passion is definitely contagious. He's an educational leader. You talk about being a leader, and there's some leaders that get you to do what they want you to do because they tell you to do it. Dr. Sutphin gets you to do what you're supposed to do because you want to do it. And I think that's a big difference. It's a big difference in leading a classroom, leading a set of students, leading adults. It's a big difference in leadership style sometimes you see.
Yeah, and they're big on the book multipliers or diminishers. Dr. Sutphin's a huge multiplier in that aspect. And I like too that he touched on the direction that he thinks COVID's gonna take education, because when we go back to what Jamie was talking about, Dr. Sutphin was talking about it too, talking about scaling a different side of the mountain and getting a different vantage point and seeing where we can go from here.
Yeah, why settle for where we've been? We know where we've been. What's over that next mountain? What's the next thing we need to do? Absolutely. That's fantastic. And then after we talked to Dr. Sutphin, we talked to another superintendent, Dr. Kiernan from New Jersey. And this guy's passion for education and love for kids was unbelievable.
He's a great guy overall. Like, we just sat down with him, first time meeting him. We had awesome conversation with him just because how much you could see his love coming through and everything that he said. Man, it was awesome to hear that, because he works with some tough kids. And sometimes when that happens, I think that it could be easy for your heart to harden a little bit. And his has done the exact opposite.
Man, he made no bones about it too. He said, these are tough kids. This is a tough school. I want people who want to be here. When you're here, you're here. You may want to leave early on Friday. Do it. Go take care of yourself. But when you're here, I want you to be here and love on these kids. And one thing I took away from his conversation is this meaningful coincidence. And that just really spoke to my heart, because oftentimes we walk by a kid in the hallway and we have something else going on in our head instructionally or maybe behaviorally from a student. But it's a meaningful coincidence that we're there in the hallway with a child who may be wanting to make a connection with an adult in the school. And as an adult, we have that responsibility to reach out to the children, make sure that they're welcome, they feel cared for.
Yeah, I loved that too, because when COVID started, I stopped taking my job for granted. I stopped with not being as thankful walking in each day. But that quote and those stories that he was telling, it really made me focus in since then. When I do see a kid, making sure that is a meaningful moment every time I pass a kid, making sure I say their name or asking them a question, "Hey, how you doing?" But then truly listening to what they say, not just, "Hey, how you doing? All right, see you later," but having a quick moment with them, because it is meaningful.
It is. His sincerity came through in buckets. And he was sincere with each individual kid. He'd find out what motivated them, and then he'd do it. You want to come play? They just got a new therapy dog. You want to come play with the dog? That's great. Take care of the dog, feed the dog, take him on a walk. But we're going to do your work. This isn't just a playtime. You're going to come in, you're going to take care of him, then you're going to do your work, and then we're going to get you back to class or wherever you need to be. But we'll motivate you and we'll get you what you need, you know?
Yeah. And then from him, we were able to talk with Beth Deacon, who was working with incarcerated youth and adults. Man, she was inspiring too. She's got a lot going on, but rightfully so. I mean, she's doing a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. She has her book coming out, 7 Doors In, because it was 7 doors into her classroom in this maximum security jail in Iowa. And what really struck me there, Josh, was really her love for humanity and motivating these felons, sometimes murderers, rapists, to make the best of the situation that they were in.
And we didn't ask her this, but I would go ahead and bet if she took the Gallup Strength Survey, her number one strength would be empathy. Just
Mm,
the way that she was talking about giving people a second chance. And she was saying this because she got to know her students. She got to know those students. She didn't just walk in and see this as a paycheck. She took it as an opportunity to get to know her students, to help them grow, but to help them develop as a person. And I love the story when she broke down the walls when they were scared to share answers because they didn't want to be wrong. So they switched papers with no names, and then they were sharing, and then learning was happening because she was able to take away that fear.
yeah, that's incredible, Josh. Some of these hardened men that we think wouldn't be scared of being wrong, or it wouldn't be um, a problem for their pride. Um, it's amazing that they have the exact same reaction as some of the children that we work with day in and day out. They don't want to be wrong. That was
Right.
awesome. That was really interesting to see, and it really made me then reflect on my practice of what I do ask children to share. How do I ask them to share?
And I think that that's what I like the most out of what we're doing with this podcast and with this YouTube channel is we're taking in everything that our guests are saying, and we're applying these lessons into our day-to-day teaching and working on being better. And then we got to sit down with Leah Jolke from North Dakota, the North Dakota Teacher of the Year, who's doing absolutely amazing things. And I know we touched on it when I brought up Jamie's quote about why are we setting the bar so low? But her interview helped me understand that bar is pretty low.
Yeah, yeah. Her interview was just absolutely breathtaking. And my mind instantly goes back to the story that she shared of the immigrant girls, the sisters, whose dad was murdered right in front of them. And man, she inspired them to share the story in writing and share the story verbally in front of an audience. And then they invited her to a memorial ceremony that they had for their dad. And they said that, Miss Jolke, you gave us the strength to share our stories because they hadn't talked about it even as a family before her class. So Josh, her inspirational class is just an incredible story.
Yeah, she is doing absolutely amazing things. Yeah, and the story about the sisters was beautiful in the most heartbreaking way, but the way that she helped them get to a point where they can share that and change the world with their story. And then she went on to tell the story about how they were able to go to the state legislature and change a bill that was being introduced to limit the number of refugees coming into North Dakota. And all of these stories, as she was telling them, they just started to mesh into this is how education should be. This is what we should be aiming for, to change the world. And you said it earlier, it's not for a test score, it's not for a great grade. This is what it was meant for, is to change the world.
Yeah, it is. And then from there we went to Janessa Bointy in Oklahoma, and you talk about a change agent. She has an absolutely breathtaking story from a personal point of view, but then she's also changing the world because in Oklahoma, just like across our country, there are these mental health deserts, and she's really bringing attention to the need of mental health, not only for students but also for adults, and the counseling needs that Oklahoma specifically is facing.
I loved how she started off with us being really vulnerable about her story and where she came from, having kids at a young age, and working so hard to get through college, and having some family problems. I think it was really relatable to a lot of people, to our listeners, to students that she works with. To me, it was understanding how hard it can be to overcome some of these obstacles that you go through when you live in the lower middle class, or when you live in poverty, how tough it is to fight that battle to get out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, it is. Um, I think as a change agent, um, we need to be vulnerable. We need to share a piece of ourselves, and she was really gracious in doing that. And I know she'll be nothing but successful down there in Oklahoma, working with the State Department of Education, and spreading the awareness of social emotional learning and the importance of it across all grade levels and age levels. She's just amazing.
Yeah. And then after Janessa, we sat down with Sean Thomas, and I was really excited about this one because one comment that I get a lot on TikTok in my videos is, when am I going to use this in real life? When am I going to do this? And man, Sean can come back and say, hey, let me answer that for you, because he started his Invest in Yourself foundation. He's teaching kids financial literacy. He's helping them learn about stocks and how to grow their wealth. And they're doing all of this while they're in middle school, while they're in high school. They're getting really early exposure to some real life situations.
Yeah, and he's not only just inspiring them, Josh, he is taking it to the community. He's teaching his high school kids about financial literacy, which is needed, so needed. And that was one of the comments on our YouTube, is that I wish they would have taught us this in school, on our comments. And he's doing that, but then he has the kids turn around and teach the community about it, which is absolutely fantastic, because I know as adults, sometimes there's some financial things that we have questions about or we might not fully understand. So, and his energy, Josh, my gosh, the energy that he brings to his virtual classroom now, but
Yeah.
I bet in person, it's amazing.
Yeah, when he told the story of that he went to the Ron Clark Academy, I was like, you've got that same energy that we see from like the Ron Clark videos that come out. I was like, I could have guessed that. Like, you've got that same vibe. You the way you're talking about your environment, you've got the music going. Like, that's a place that kids want to be, and it's obvious from the way that he was talking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that he has an environment where kids want to be, and they're comfortable in his classroom, and he makes sure they're comfortable by providing furniture. Um, and I think that if somebody were to come in the classroom and they saw the quality of work getting done, they'd probably be blown away. Um, but sometimes people have a hard time looking past the fact that students don't all learn in rows and desks and their feet tucked in, and um, but good work's getting done in his class for sure.
Absolutely. And then after Sean, we got to sit down with Brandy from North Platte, and Andy and Sally from Nebraska Loves Public School, and talk with them about some of the ways that they're coming out to the community and letting them know some of the struggles that are happening inside of education.
Yeah. Um, so the video that we specifically talked about, the Mind Inside episode 3, is based in North Platte, and it follows Brandy Busher and Officer Johnson and how they kind of collaborate to provide services to students who struggle on a number of levels. Um, and that if you haven't watched A Mind Inside episode 3, Josh, I think you should.
Watched it. I
Yeah.
watched it, and just like you, I needed a couple boxes of Kleenexes and some time to process all of that. And I think for me anyways, is working at a Title I school where there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of, I know that I'm in elementary, but there's a lot of the same situations that were brought out in that episode that I see in our school. And not directly, but as a teacher, we know what's going on behind the scenes of students, what's going on at home. Um, I just see a lot of all of that happening in the community that I teach, and I think that that's what hit home most with me as I was watching it was, man, these could be my kids. And I liked being able to talk to Brandy and almost just brainstorm, hey, what are some ways that as a fifth grade teacher that I can help support my students emotionally and socially so that when they get up into high school, they've got these healthy ways to regulate.
Yeah, yeah. I really enjoyed Brandy's candor when, she deals with really deep stuff. We're talking abuse, we're talking substance abuse by students and caregivers. We're talking about abandonment. And so she really deals with these like super, super, super deep, deep, deep issues. And it's amazing to me that she was open with sometimes it's not okay. Sometimes I go home and it's not okay. And I'm okay with not being okay sometimes. And I think as educators, the go-to is everything's fine, everything's great. And sometimes when we're dealing with heavy, heavy issues, things aren't okay. It is okay to say you're struggling. It is okay to say, I need to talk to my friends, or I need to talk to a counselor, or I need to talk to somebody to help me process what is really going on in this position, this job I have.
Yeah, I think that that's a big thing that I'm taking away from a lot of the talks that we're having is one, living in a silo makes our job so much harder, trying to do it all on your own. Two, just like you said, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to lean on others. That's what we're all here for. That's why we're trying to bring out these conversations so that we can understand, hey, we're all in this together and we all want what's best for kids. So let's learn and grow as a community.
That's something that I've really come to appreciate over the last couple episodes or seasons is there is this power in connection. There's this power in being part of something. There's this power in sharing ideas. And as a young educator, I was horrible about sharing ideas. And I hope that we're inspiring people, Josh, just like Andy said. They create these videos. They have the I Heart Public School shirts because it's about conversations. It's about the connections. It's about having those sometimes difficult conversations, but providing that inspiration and that impetus to really move the world forward, to move society forward in a positive way.
Absolutely. It has been 2 full seasons of absolute fun. I've loved doing this. Every Tuesday is a night that we get to look forward to, and it makes Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday so much easier after listening to stories to keep our spark lit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you to everybody who's been part of this.
So Tom, after 2 seasons, because you end every episode with the same question for everybody, I gotta know, what do you think the world needs now?
That's a tough question. And I love all the answers we've got. Every single guest has something unique to them, and it's beautiful. Josh, what I think the world needs now is passion. I think we need passion to push us forward. I think we need passionate educators to take us to the next level, to ask the question, what problem are we going to solve? What problem do you want to solve? And not be happy with a bar that's set really low. But we need to ask that question and be passionate about it. Josh, what's your question? What's your answer to what the world needs now?
I got to start that I love yours because that's what everybody's brought to the table that we talk with, and they might have different answers, but they're all bringing that passion for us. Man, if I had to think, Tom, I think I'm gonna say and I'm going to go a little bit of a different route with mine. I'm going to say what the world needs now is discussion.
Mm,
We need to be able to sit down and have tough conversations. We need to be able to sit down and have disagreements in a civil way. And I think that if we can do that, that some of these bridges that seem broken will start to come together as we share our thoughts, and we start to understand that we are very, very similar in all that we do. And we just have to be able to talk about it. And I think that discussions can make the world the place that we hope that it can be someday. And we're going to ask that if you agree with anything that you've heard in any of our episodes, that you like, that you subscribe, and that you share these episodes with others so that we can help get stories out to other educators and to other people so that we can share your stories and we can help close those bridges that maybe do seem broken. We can help bring them closer together so that we can see a little bit more eye to eye. Not that we have to agree with everything, but that these discussions can begin to happen.
Josh, I think that's right. I think the more discussions there are, the better the ability to listen, to really understand perspectives. I think that is what the world needs now. I love it. I love it.
Oh, this has been fun, Tom. I think next season we're going international again to start. Is that true?
That's right. We have Hari Krishna from India coming to join us, and he'll share with us how he inspires his students, how he's inspired them and made connections even through the COVID epidemic in India. And we're just super pumped, super thrilled to have him with us, Josh. It'll be amazing.
Awesome. I can't wait. I've been waiting to meet him. I know you talk about him a lot. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, we hope you join us next week when we sit down with Hari and have just an absolutely awesome conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. Thanks for tuning in this week. Hopefully you're ready for another week of changing lives. We're so thankful and appreciative that you took your time to hear what we've learned over this last season.
We hope that as you head out, you remember that the biggest factor that plays into student success is you. Your love, your passion, your empathy, your dedication is exactly what the world needs now. Thank you for all you do. Have a good one.